Elias Rook had learned long ago that the frontier did not reward people who waited for permission. The mining moon of Havelock 9 was quiet most days. Too quiet. Its sky was a dull gray, always heavy with dust from strip mines that had been abandoned decades earlier. Most companies had taken what they wanted and left, but a few stubborn humans stayed behind. They repaired old machines, traded scrap, and survived without expecting help from anyone. Elias was one of them. He lived alone in a reinforced workshop on the edge of a dry canyon. His days were filled with broken engines, cracked hull plates, and power systems that should have failed years ago. He fixed them anyway, not because it paid well, but because someone had to. On that day, Elias was under the belly of an old cargo hauler, tightening a coolant seal when the ground shook. At first, he thought it was another cave collapse from the old mines. Then the sky screamed. Elias rolled out from under the ship just in time to see a streak of fire tear across the clouds. Whatever it was moving too fast and burning too bright to be a meteor. It skipped once through the atmosphere, then slammed into the far side of the canyon with a thunderous crash that sent dust rolling across the ground like a wave. Elias stood still, listening. His sensors stayed quiet. No alarms, no alerts from orbit. That meant one thing. No one important was watching. Most people would have stayed inside. Crashes brought trouble. Pirates, smugglers, alien scouts, none of them ended well for a lone engineer, but Elias had never been good at ignoring broken things. He grabbed his med kit, sealed his suit, and loaded a plasma cutter onto his belt. Then he took his rover and headed toward the impact site. The wreck lay half buried in rock and ash. It was not shaped like any human ship Elias had ever seen. Its hull curved like living bone, scorched black and split open in places. Faint blue light flickered from deep inside, weak and unstable. Elias circled the wreck slowly. There were no weapons firing, no defense drones, just silence. "That's not good," he muttered. He cut his way through a torn section of hull and climbed inside. The air was thin but breathable. The interior was ruined, twisted metal, shattered consoles, and the smell of burned circuitry. He followed a trail of dark blood that shimmered faintly in the low light. He found her in what looked like a command chamber. She lay against a broken control throne, armor cracked and sparking. The armor was advanced beyond anything Elias had seen, layered and elegant even in ruin. Beneath it was a humanoid woman, tall and strong-looking, with pale blue skin and dark silver hair matted with blood. Her chest rose and fell slowly. "She's alive," Elias said quietly, surprised. As if responding to his voice, her eyes fluttered open. They were a deep violet, sharp even through pain. Her hand twitched toward a shattered weapon beside her. "Easy," Elias said, raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," she tried to speak. What came out was a broken sound, half breath, half word. Elias moved closer and scanned her with his medical tool. Internal bleeding, multiple fractures, failing neural links in her armor. She should have been dead. "Don't move," he said. "Your armor's killing you." She shook her head weakly. Her lips moved again. This time the translator in Elias' suit caught fragments. "No, take it off, dishonor," Elias sighed. "Sorry, I don't have time for pride." He used the plasma cutter to slice through the locking seams. The armor resisted, adapting to the heat, but Elias adjusted the frequency until it gave way. One panel at a time, he pulled it free, disconnecting systems that screamed warnings in alien script. The moment the chest plate came off, her body spasmed. Blood poured out faster. "Yeah, figured," Elias said, already working. He sealed the wound with biofoam meant for humans, adjusted manually for her alien biology as best he could. It wasn't perfect, but it slowed the bleeding. He splinted broken limbs with scrap metal and wrapped them tight. Her breathing steadied. She looked at him with confusion and anger mixed together. "Why?" she whispered, her voice rough but clear now. "Because you crashed," Elias replied, "and I fix things that crash. That is foolish." "Yeah, I get that a lot." He lifted her carefully and carried her out of the wreck. The ship groaned behind them, systems finally dying. He placed her in the rover's medical pod and sealed it. As they drove back toward his workshop, the woman drifted in and out of consciousness. When she woke again, she studied him closely. "You are human," she said. "Last I checked." "You know what I am?" "An injured person," Elias said. "That's enough." She was silent for a long time after that. Back at the workshop, Elias worked for hours. He adjusted oxygen mixes, calibrated field generators, and rewired his medical bed to accept her strange physiology. Every system he used was outdated by galactic standards, but he knew them inside and out. When something didn't fit, he made it fit. She survived the night. By the second day, her fever broke. Her wounds began to close faster than expected. When she finally sat up on her own, Elias nearly dropped the cup of water he was holding. "Hey," he said, "you're not cleared for heroics." She swung her legs off the bed anyway. "You removed my armor without authorization." "Yeah, it was either that or let you bleed out." She looked down at her bare hands, then around the workshop. Tools lined the walls, scrap parts stacked neatly. Nothing about the place suggested wealth or power. "You are not military," she said. "Nope. You are not government. Definitely not. You should fear me." Elias met her gaze. "You should have been dead. I didn't let that happen. We're past fear." Something unreadable crossed her face. Amusement, maybe, or disbelief. "I am called Kale," she said after a moment. "I am a warrior." "Elias," he replied. "Engineer." She nodded as if those words meant something important. That evening, Elias noticed something strange. His long-range scanner pinged once, faint but sharp, then went quiet. The signal pattern was not human. It was precise, powerful. He frowned and ran a deeper scan. Nothing, too clean. He looked back at Kale, who was watching him closely. "Someone looking for you?" he asked. She hesitated just for a second. "Yes," she said. Elias leaned back in his chair. "That's a problem." "They will not come here," she said quickly. "This place is insignificant." Elias stared at the sensor screen. "Funny thing about people with big ships, they don't always check what matters, they just erase it." Kale said nothing. Far above the gray clouds of Havelock 9, space rippled. Something vast shifted course, guided by a signal older than most civilizations. And the moon that no one cared about was no longer invisible. Elias did not sleep well that night. The workshop was quiet, but his mind was not. He replayed the scanner, reading again and again. The signal had been sharp, clean, and powerful. It was not random. It was a search ping, the kind used by people who expected to be obeyed. He rose before dawn and checked the sky cams. The gray clouds of Havelock 9 rolled as always, hiding the stars. Nothing looked different, but that only made him more uneasy. Kale was awake when he entered the medical room. She was sitting upright, her posture straight despite the pain she must still have been feeling. Her wounds were sealed now, strange patterns of healing across her skin where human biofoam had done what it could. "You should rest," Elias said. "I have rested enough," she replied. He handed her a cup of water. She accepted it with a nod, studying him as she drank. "You are concerned," she said. "I tend to be when unknown fleets start sniffing around my home." She lowered the cup. "I did not wish to endanger you." Elias let out a dry laugh. "That ship didn't crash here by accident. Whatever hit you wanted you gone." "Now they know you're not." Kale was silent. When she spoke again, her voice was calm but heavy. "You deserve truth." Elias leaned against a workbench and folded his arms. "I was hoping you'd say that." She took a slow breath. "My full name is Kalith Vera Strix. I am the ruling empress of the Astrix Dominion." The words hung in the air. Elias waited for something inside him to change. Fear, awe, the urge to bow, none of it came. "Okay," he said at last. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You do not understand." "I understand titles," Elias replied. "I just don't care much for them." Kalith watched him closely, as if trying to decide whether he was lying or insane. "My dominion controls more systems than your species has fully explored. Good for you. My command can erase this moon in moments." "That would be rude." For the first time, something like a smile touched her lips. It was brief but real. "I was betrayed," she continued. "My high admirals feared change. I sought to reshape our empire, to make it stronger by allowing initiative, adaptation, freedom." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Sounds familiar." "Your species inspired it," Kalith said. "Humans survive chaos better than order. That terrifies empires." Elias scratched his beard. "You got stabbed in the back for saying that?" "In many ways," she said quietly. He looked toward the ceiling, imagining ships gathering beyond the clouds. "So what now?" "I must recover and leave," Kalith said. "If I am found here, your people will suffer." Elias shook his head. "You don't know humans very well. Enlighten me." "We don't like being erased," he said, "and we really don't like bullies." Kalith stood, swaying slightly. Elias moved to steady her, but she waved him off. "You are one man, one workshop." "One man can still make noise," Elias replied. That afternoon, another signal flickered across his sensors. This one was stronger, closer. Elias cursed under his breath. Kalith felt it too. Her expression hardened, her earlier calm replaced by something sharper. They are triangulating. Yeah, I figured, Elias said, which means we're out of time. He moved fast, pulling up his old comm terminal. It was not linked to any official network, no government channels, no military codes. Kalith watched with confusion. Who are you calling? Everyone, Elias said. He opened a wideband transmission, unencrypted and raw. This is Elias Rook on Havelock 9, he said into the mic. If you're human and listening, I've got a problem. Big ships, bad intentions. Anyone who hates being pushed around might want to hear this. He sent the signal and leaned back. Kalith stared at him. That will not summon fleets. Didn't want fleets, Elias said. Wanted people. The response was not immediate. An hour passed, then two. Kalith paced the workshop, growing restless. They will arrive before help does. Maybe, Elias said, maybe not. Then the comm terminal beeped. This is Freya's luck, a voice crackled. Cargo hauler, I heard your call. What's going on, Rook? Another voice followed, then another. Independent captains, prospectors. Old military pilots flying patched-together ships that no one else wanted. No central command. No hierarchy. Just humans. Kalith watched in silence as Elias explained the situation in simple terms. No mention of empresses or thrones, just danger. We don't need details, one voice said. If someone's trying to wipe a human rock off the map, that's enough. I can jam sensors, another added. Won't be clean, but it'll be loud. Kalith felt something shift inside her. This was not how empires responded. This was chaos. And yet it worked. The Astrix fleet arrived at the edge of the system an hour later. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Vast, sleek vessels of silver and blue moving in perfect formation. Their presence bent space itself, their drives humming with controlled power. From their flagship, a transmission was sent. This system is under Astrix authority. Withdraw all vessels. Resistance will be removed. Elias listened to the message on open channel and snorted. They always talk like that? Kalith did not answer. Human ships began to arrive from every direction. Old freighters, mining rigs with weapon mounts welded on, scout ships running on hope and spare parts. They did not form ranks. They did not answer the transmission. They simply spread out. The Astrix commanders hesitated. Their sensors struggled to track the chaotic movement. Human ships burned hot, cold, then hot again, signatures changing unpredictably. Why are they not following engagement protocols? An Astrix officer demanded. Because we don't have any, Elias muttered. The first shot came from a human mining rig. A mass driver meant for breaking asteroids hurled a chunk of rock straight into the path of an Astrix escort ship. The impact shattered its shields, sending it spinning. Then everything broke loose. Human ships did not fight to destroy. They fought to confuse. They jammed, blinded, and disrupted. They used debris fields as cover. They detonated old fuel tanks in clever places. They turned the environment into a weapon. Kalith watched from the workshop, eyes wide. This should not be possible. Welcome to humanity, Elias said. The Astrix fleet began to take losses, not fatal ones, but enough to shake confidence. A new transmission cut through the chaos. Empress Kalith, a voice said. Return and this ends. She stepped toward the console. Elias placed a hand on her arm. You don't owe them. She looked at him. If I do not answer, they will escalate. Then answer on your terms, Elias said. She nodded and opened the channel. I am alive, Kalith said, and I see clearly now. Your methods failed because they cannot adapt. The silence that followed was heavy. You shelter among primitives, the voice replied. You shame the throne, Kalith's gaze hardened. No, I learned from them. She ended the transmission. The Astrix fleet pulled back slightly, regrouping. Elias exhaled slowly. That was bold, she looked at him. You changed the course of an empire today, he shrugged. Just fixed what crashed. Far above, human ships continued to arrive. And for the first time in a long while, the galaxy hesitated when it looked at humanity. The battle around Havelock 9 did not look like a war the galaxy understood. From the edge of the system, it looked messy, uneven, and almost careless. Human ships moved without clean lines or perfect timing. Some burned their engines too hard, others cut power completely and drifted like dead metal. Signals flared and vanished. Sensor ghosts filled space. Inside the Astrix flagship, commanders argued. This is inefficient, one said. Their ships should not survive direct contact. They are not engaging directly, another replied. They refuse structure. That is not how war is fought. The fleet commander stood silent, watching the tactical display. More human ships were arriving, not warships, not proper ones, just everything humans could fly. Back on the surface, Elias worked non-stop. His workshop had turned into a command hub by accident. Screens showed sensor data sent by human pilots who trusted him because he spoke plainly. He did not give orders, he only shared information. "Big ship shifting left," Elias said into the open channel. "Looks like it's lining up something heavy." "Copy," a pilot replied. "Dragging an ore barge across its path." "That won't stop it," someone else warned. "Doesn't have to," the pilot answered. "Just needs to annoy it." Kalith stood beside Elias, watching the flow of chaos. She was fully awake now, her strength returning faster than expected. Her presence alone should have bent this situation to her will. Instead, she felt like a student. "They should be afraid," she said quietly. "My fleet outguns them." "They are afraid," Elias replied. "They just act anyway." The Astrix fleet advanced again, slower this time. Their formation tightened, shields overlapping, weapons charging in careful cycles. Human ships reacted instantly, not by meeting them head-on, but by scattering. Some dove toward the moon, skimming the upper atmosphere where sensors struggled. Others cut engines and let gravity pull them into strange arcs. A few vanished entirely, hiding behind debris and signal noise. Then the traps began. Mining drones, forgotten for years, activated and swarmed, clogging sensors. Automated cargo pods exploded in bursts of electromagnetic interference. Old satellites were pushed out of orbit at the perfect moment to crash into Astrix shield zones. None of it followed doctrine. Kalith clenched her hands. "This is not random." "No," Elias said. "It's instinct." An Astrix cruiser fired, its beam slicing through space and vaporizing an empty region where a human ship had been seconds earlier. The human pilot's voice came over comms, laughing. "Missed me." The Astrix commander's comm finally cracked. "They mock us." "They survive you," an officer corrected. "That is worse." Down on the moon, a tremor ran through the ground. Elias checked the readout. "They're powering up orbital weapons," he said. "If they fire those, the surface won't matter." Kalith stepped forward. "They are testing resolve." Elias looked at her. "Then maybe it's time we test theirs." He opened a new channel, broader than before. "All human ships," he said. "They're about to remind us they're bigger. Let's remind them we're stubborn." No cheers, no speeches. Just acknowledgments. A dozen human vessels accelerated straight toward the Astrix formation. On every tactical display, it looked like suicide. The Astrix fleet responded instantly, targeting them with precision. Then the human ships detonated, not in fire, but in light. Each had been loaded with unstable drive cores, stripped down and overcharged. The explosions ripped through space, distorting gravity and tearing holes in sensor fields. Astrix shields flared, systems overloaded, and formation cohesion shattered. Kalith gasped. "They sacrificed themselves." Elias shook his head. "They chose, big difference." The opening was brief, but humans moved fast. Other ships slipped through the chaos, striking exposed systems, disabling engines, cutting power relays. The Astrix fleet faltered. On the flagship, alarms rang for the first time in centuries. "This engagement is unacceptable," the commander said. "Signal retreat parameters." "But the Empress is no longer our concern," the commander snapped. "Survival is." The fleet began to pull back. From the workshop, Elias watched the ships retreat beyond effective range. He leaned back, exhausted. "We're still here," he said softly. Kalith closed her eyes. When she opened them, something inside her had changed. "They will not forget this," she said. "Neither will I." The battle did not end cleanly. Skirmishes flared for hours as Astrix forces disengaged and human ships covered one another. More than a few human vessels were damaged. Some were lost, but the moon still stood. When the last Astrix ship vanished into folded space, silence returned. Human comms filled with tired voices, jokes, quiet grief, relief. Elias shut down the main display and finally sat. Kalith lowered herself into a chair across from him. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You understand," she said at last, "what your people have done?" Elias shrugged weakly. "We protected our home. You changed how the galaxy will see you," she said. "Before today, humanity was classified as adaptable but insignificant. And now," Kalith met his eyes. "Now you are unpredictable." Elias smiled faintly. "Good." A signal cut through the quiet. This one carried codes Kalith recognized instantly. Her face hardened. "It is my High Council," she said. "They demand my return." And if you do, Elias asked. They will fracture, she replied, or destroy themselves trying to maintain control. Elias rubbed his temples. Sounds like a mess. It is, she agreed. But it is my responsibility. She stood, steady now, every inch the ruler she had hidden. I must go back. Elias nodded slowly. Figured you'd say that, she paused. I would ask something of you. Careful, Elias said. I don't do crowns. I ask nothing formal, Calith said. Only that humanity not withdraw, not hide again. Elias thought of the ships that had answered his call. People who had no reason to fight except that it was right. We weren't hiding, he said. We were busy. A faint smile returned to her face. A small Astrix shuttle descended hours later, escorted by human ships that kept a careful distance. Calith stood at the ramp, looking back at the workshop one last time. You saved my life, she said, but more than that, you reminded me why I wanted to rule differently. Elias scratched his neck. Just don't forget where you crashed. I won't, she promised. As the shuttle lifted off, Elias watched until it vanished into the clouds. The moon of Havelock 9 returned to its quiet state. Broken machines still needed fixing. Dust still fell from the sky, but the galaxy beyond had shifted. Far away in chambers of power and halls of strategy, reports spread. Not about weapons or numbers, about humans, about a species that did not wait to be important. And about the day an empire learned that adaptability could not be controlled, only respected. The galaxy did not change all at once. It never did. Changes began as whispers, as delays in schedules, as meetings that lasted longer than planned. In the Astrix Dominion, news of the failed retrieval spread faster than anyone wanted. Officers avoided eye contact. Admirals spoke carefully. Records were edited, then edited again, and at the center of it all, Calith returned. Her shuttle entered the capital system under heavy escort, but it was not the honor guard she once commanded. These ships watched her closely, as if unsure whether she was their ruler or their enemy. Calith noticed. She said nothing. When she stepped onto the grand platform of the Imperial Citadel, the High Council waited. 12 figures stood in a perfect half-circle, their robes marked with symbols of authority earned through centuries of tradition. Empress, the first admiral said, bowing shallowly. You have caused disruption. Calith walked past him without stopping. I survived an execution attempt. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. You accuse without proof, another counselor said. Calith turned slowly. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. You sent a fleet to erase a moon you believed insignificant. You failed. That is proof enough. Silence followed. You allowed humans to interfere, the first admiral said. Primitives irrelevant. Calith's eyes hardened. They stood when your fleets faltered. That was when she did something no Astrix ruler had done before. She opened the records. Live. Across the Dominion, screens lit up. Citizens, officers, and governors watched as Calith shared battle data, transmissions, and internal orders. They saw the command to erase Havelock 9. They saw the hesitation. They saw the retreat. They saw the humans. No speeches followed. Calith simply ended the broadcast. The council erupted. You weaken us, one shouted. You shame our legacy, Calith raised her hand. The room fell quiet. Our legacy is survival, she said, and survival requires change. She stripped 3 admirals of command that day, not through force, but through law rewritten in public view. The Dominion did not fracture, it adapted, slowly, cautiously. Back on Havelock 9, Elias Rook returned to work. His workshop looked the same as it always had. Dust on the floor, tools on the walls, half-finished projects waiting for attention. The only difference was the traffic. Ships came now, not fleets but visitors. Human captains stopping by to check in, traders bringing spare parts, engineers asking questions. Elias did not like the attention, but he did not turn anyone away. One afternoon, while repairing a power coupler, his console chimed. An unfamiliar signal, clean, controlled. Astrix, Elias sighed. Figures. He wiped his hands and opened the channel. Calith appeared on the screen, no longer wounded, no longer hiding. She wore simple attire now, no crown, no armor. Engineer Rook, she said. I hope this transmission finds you well. It finds me busy, Elias replied, but alive, so that's a win. She inclined her head slightly. Your moon is now under Astrix protection, Elias frowned. We didn't ask for that. You were not consulted, she admitted, but you were considered. That's new. Calith's expression softened. I am dismantling old systems, slowly, with resistance, but the idea has taken root. Elias leaned back in his chair. So what does an empress want from a mechanic now? Nothing, she said. This is not a request. That caught his attention. I wanted you to know that humanity's classification has changed. Oh, Elias said. What are we now? Strategic equals, Calith replied. A designation never given before. Elias let out a low whistle. That's going to annoy a lot of people. It already has, she said. Which means it is working. The transmission ended shortly after. No ceremony, no promises. Elias returned to his repairs. Elsewhere, the galaxy adjusted. Trade routes shifted slightly to avoid human space, not out of fear but caution. Military doctrines added new sections marked with warnings instead of instructions. Young officers studied recordings of the battle at Havelock 9, struggling to understand how disorder had beaten perfection. Some tried to copy it. They failed. Because what humans did could not be copied, it was not a tactic, it was a mindset. Months passed. Havelock 9 gained a proper landing zone, then a small station, then a market. No flags were raised, no capital was declared. People came because they wanted to, not because they were told to. Elias remained at the edge of it all. One evening, as the sun dipped below the dusty horizon, a young pilot stood in his doorway. "They say you started it," the pilot said. Elias didn't look up from his work. "Started what?" "The whole thing," the pilot replied. "Humans being taken seriously." Elias tightened a bolt and stood. "I didn't start anything. I helped someone who was bleeding." The pilot frowned. "That's it." "That's always it," Elias said. Far away in a chamber rebuilt with open designs and transparent walls, Calith stood alone. The Dominion was quieter now, less rigid, more uncertain. She preferred it that way. A report rested in her hands. Another border skirmish avoided. Another potential war paused because human mediators had stepped in, not with authority, but with solutions no one else had considered. She smiled faintly. "Fixers," she murmured. The galaxy had empires, it had fleets, it had weapons beyond counting, but now it also had humans. A species that did not wait to be invited into history. A species that did not ask who someone was before helping them. And somewhere on a forgotten moon, an engineer closed his workshop for the night, unaware that the universe now measured power a little differently because of him. Not by size, not by fear, but by who showed up when something broke.